Hi guys. Oh, can't see me very well in there, cutting half my head off. There we go, that's better. Welcome to my fertility and mental health vlog. I thought I can't do this series of vlogs without mentioning the mental health side of things, because obviously I've talked about it in previous vlogs, so it only seemed right to talk about it in regards to this, especially because the year and a half ago that I came off my tablets, the only reason I came off them was because of my fertility journey beginning. So after about a year and a half of trying for a child, we went to the doctors and spoke to them, said that we've been trying for this amount of time and nothing's happening, and that's when sort of the ball started rolling and they started putting things in motion for us to go for fertility treatment or be tested, start getting tested for things, see if we'll be able to have fertility treatment. And one of the things was I was obviously taking antidepressants, and even though that does not like have an effect on your fertility, obviously they worry that getting pregnant and being on antidepressant would mean that when the baby's born it could have withdrawal symptoms from the antidepressants. There isn't anywhere near enough research into this yet to give a definitive answer that this is actually could be the case, but obviously I wanted to give it a go, and some people, some women, it won't be an option for them, like it is far too dangerous for them to come off antidepressants while pregnant. But for me, I wanted to try it. I hadn't been off antidepressants for the last 6 years and I wanted to give it a good go. Now I will say this, is yes, the doctor suggested that I come off them. He did not suggest any counselling and he did not do any follow-up appointments on how I was getting on. So really, the fact that I'm alive is mostly down to me. I successfully managed to come off the antidepressants, obviously gradually. The doctor sort of told me how I could come off them gradually, and I'd done it before, so I was pretty aware of what I had to do. So I did that, and it wasn't too bad, to be fair, and I came off them. But then obviously I was going to be dealing with all this fertility stuff without antidepressants that I needed just to cope with normal life before, but now I had all this extra stuff and stress and everything and uncertainty, but without any tablets or anything. So that was going to be fun, and naturally my anxiety just got so much worse. And I especially noticed it when we were going through our first treatment of IUI, and obviously it was all new and different, and I just had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of problems with my anxiety during that, and I was so glad in some ways when it was over that obviously I'd rather have been pregnant at the end of it, but it came out in tears at the end of it, I think, because I was just so stressed and anxiety like ridden, that it was just the fact that they come to any conclusion at all was like amazing and just a relief. But obviously then we had 2 other treatments to go, and I figured that I needed to do something to control my anxiety, because otherwise I was going to drive myself insane, because the fertility journey is such a long journey and you don't know how long it's going to be, because obviously we didn't know if any of the cycles at IUI were going to work, and there was 3 of them, and then if none of them worked, which obviously we didn't know whether it would or not, we're then going to be doing IVF and potentially at least 3 cycles of IVF. So it was a long journey, and really, despite the fact I've been trying for a year and a half, we're probably just at the beginning, and we'd had all our tests and things, and we're starting the treatment, so it was just a lot of stress. I decided this is where I was going to decide that I wanted to do running, and I'd been thinking about it for a while, thinking I need to do something, and what can I do? And as I've mentioned before in a vlog, a lot of people, mental health charities and things, couldn't get my words out in the last one, had suggested jogging as being a great way to unwind and it's good for anxiety and depression. Even though I felt that I wasn't really having a huge amount of problems with my depression, I was having a huge amount of problems with my anxiety. So I decided to start doing a couch to 5k after a bit of research and a bit of, I don't know if I really want to do it, I don't know if it's going to help. I eventually got my ass into gear and did it, and it was actually, I started it part of the way through the 2nd round of IUI treatment that we had, and that is pretty much, it was completely to do with fertility treatment, is why I decided to do it, for my anxiety, but also I felt like my body was failing, that it has one job and that was to get pregnant. It's supposed to be something that men and women are supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to have a baby, you're supposed to reproduce. Like, how on earth are you supposed to keep the population going if you can't even have a baby? It's like one job that my body's got to do, and it couldn't do it. And I just was so angry at myself because I felt like, because obviously we found that everything was fine with John, and yes, we found everything was fine with me too, but I felt there must be something wrong with me, because there's only one thing that can go wrong with John, and we know that's not wrong, but there's lots of things that could go wrong inside a woman's body. And in the end, in IUI treatment, it's my body that's got to sort out everything once, you know, they've put the sperm inside and everything. It's my body that's got to do the rest of it. He can't do anything else. So therefore, if it's not happening and not getting pregnant, it clearly must be my fault, and I blame myself, obviously, because I'm good at that anyway. So that's what I was doing, and I needed my body to do something good and what I found useful and right for itself for once, since it didn't seem to be doing it. The only thing it could do is have a period every single month. It couldn't miss one of those. No, it could do that every single month, but it couldn't get pregnant. So anyway, the jogging, I felt, gave me a focus and was going to sort of clear my mind and prove that, and also prove to me that my body could actually do something right for once in its life. So yeah, we started the Couch to 5K, which was that obviously like put you into running gradually, and it gave me something to aim for, that each time I felt like I was improving rather than just running into the abyss and hoping and obviously failing. It helped me a little bit with my pace and stuff. And I felt really motivated to do exercise for the first time in years, because I used to do loads of it and then I just stopped because life got manic and I didn't care about it enough to keep it going, basically. So this was the first time I'd actually done any proper exercise for years. I'm talking about like 10 years. So it was a big deal and I was really, really unfit. So I really was going from the couch to the 5K, and obviously then anxiety sort of makes you go, you know, have lots of energy and want to do things and all this kind of thing, and my brain was sort of whirling around with everything to do with the fertility and stuff like that. So when I actually came to have given it a focus and doing it, it really helped. And we were jogging sort of 3 times a week at the beginning. Now we do it once or twice a week, because we're running for 5K rather than running for like a minute, then walking for a minute and then running for a minute or whatever, and only actually really running for 5 minutes altogether over like 15-20 minutes. But now we're actually running, you know, for over half an hour constantly. But the problem was, I think, as well with the jogging, is it all was going really well and I felt really motivated and optimistic. But then when I got injured with my ankle, I thought, oh, for God's sake, my body just can't do anything right at the moment. It can't do anything right. It can't get pregnant. Now I can't even run. It can't even do that basic thing. So that did not help my mental health on it, is having my ankle swell up and everything. But I'm such a stubborn person in that ways, and it's helped a lot with my mental health, to be honest, to be this stubborn. It's kept me going and pushed me forward, and it did again with the jogging. I was just like, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm determined. It will do what I want it to do, because it's my body. I make these decisions, okay? No one else does. It might think it's separate to me, but it's not. It's part of me. So if I'm going to do this jogging, it is going to come along with me, whether it likes it or not. So I took a month or so off, got a support bandage on my ankle, which I still wear now because it's still not 100%, and was like, we're doing it. Dragging John out all the time because he didn't really want to do it, but he knew that I was into it, and he was happy that I was doing it, and he understood that I was doing it because of my anxiety and that I needed to do it for my health and things. And he just came with me, and he's still coming with me, even though he hates it probably more than I do, and I'm not a big fan of it. You know, getting the motivation to go out is quite hard, and when I'm out there I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? Why? But then afterwards I feel such a sense of achievement, and my mind just feels so much more settled. And I found that with all the ups and downs of the fertility treatment, or mostly downs in our case, it's sort of given me something to focus on and take my mind off, and also to aim for. I feel like that I'm achieving something. So I feel proud of my body for having achieved the 5K, even if I'm still not talking to it about the fertility problems. So it has been good, and this is one way I found to cope with it, with sort of the anxiety and the stress without being on tablets, and going through obviously a much more stressful situation than I would be normally, even when I was on tablets. Another thing that I found quite good is having things to look forward to. So even when you're going through fertility treatment, obviously it takes quite some time, and the worst time is the 2 weeks you've got to wait between the fertility treatment actually ending and then finding out the results. So you're waiting for your period, and I cannot tell you how stressful it is, because obviously you really don't want to have it, but so far every month it has come, whether I've had fertility treatment or not, made no difference. My period's been there. Occasionally it likes to tease you. It likes to be like 2, 3, 4 days even late, but it still comes. So, but anyway, So you need something to like focus on, take your mind off all the waiting, otherwise you literally will be just so like stressed about it. So I found like sort of just meeting up with friends or going away for a couple of days or going to the cinema and going out for food, all these little things that you can do, and not always like costing a lot, but you know, bits that you can do that you can look forward to, which means you're focusing on that rather than on the actual fertility things. And that's, I found, really helpful, and we've done that a lot as we're going through the IVF treatment. I've made sure we've got quite a few things in place, like we're going away for a couple of days to Paris, we're going away for a couple of days to Stratford-upon-Avon to go and see a play. We've just got bits to look forward to so that we're focusing on that and not just constantly thinking about the fertility and the IVF process and then worrying about it. I've also decided this year that I want to do more sort of reading and things like that to distract myself. I find social media quite difficult when you're going through fertility treatment, because literally you can guarantee if I've got a scan or anything fertility related, somebody on Instagram will announce that they are pregnant. You can guarantee it, just to know, put home that I'm the one with like tumbleweed going through my womb and everyone else has got a womb that's full or has been full, and I've got, you know, a nice litter of children. But you know, that's kind of it. You've got a lot of people on social media and it feels like everyone's saying that they're pregnant. I'm sure they're not, but it feels like they all are. And this is one of the reasons why I also came off Facebook, because I just couldn't cope with it. And at least with Instagram, because I've got an interior account, I'm looking at a lot of interiors, and it's not all children. But when you are on a Facebook, people put multiple pictures of their child up, of their pregnancy. They talk you through everything. Oh my God, I've unfollowed quite a few people actually on Instagram as well, because they constantly go on about their child and every like, I feel sick today because I'm pregnant. I can't eat this because I'm pregnant. I can't drink this because I'm pregnant. I didn't sleep very well because I'm pregnant. And it's just constant, and it's hard, so hard to watch it when you feel like the only person who's never experienced this and is possibly never going to experience it, because you just don't know. No matter how much you hope, no matter how many people tell you that there's no reason why you can't get pregnant, the point is you still aren't. So it doesn't matter whether it's likely for you to get pregnant or not, you're still not at this precise moment, and whether you are going to be in the future or not is irrelevant, because you're just not now and you don't know what's going to happen in the future, whether it's good or bad. And it's just, oh my God. So yeah, social media isn't always my friend, so I've tried to sort of come off social media a bit more and look at reading books more and watching films, and then turning films off because someone again is announcing that they're pregnant or has got pregnant by accident. That's my favourite. Someone who's got pregnant by accident. I just love those kind of people. The thing is though as well with having an interiors count, and I think it's probably quite a few people feel this about those that are married also on there. It's like, if you're not married and you don't have kids, it's like you're not part of the clique. And same with if you don't own your own house, because most people on there own their own house, they have kids, they're married. And if you don't fit into those things, you can sometimes feel like you're a bit out of it at times, because you can't really join in a lot of conversations when people are talking about, oh, my kids are so annoying today, and oh, I can't wait for them to go back to school, or they woke me up 20 billion times last night, or whatever it is they're talking about. And you feel like you can't join in, so you just sort of like, oh, poor you. Yeah, I still got tumbleweed going through my womb. And it's just, that's quite hard as well. So yes, definitely I recommend for mental health reasons to not be on social media so much, because it will literally drive you insane if you have fertility problems, or if say you're unmarried or you've just broken up with your boyfriend or something, or your husband, then I suggest that social media is probably not a good idea either, because obviously, especially on Facebook, you get all these lovey-dovey posts, don't you, all the time, so I can imagine it's not good for that either. One thing I'm really glad, and I did it because having had depression and that when I was younger, and knowing I'm 1 in 4. 1 in 4 people have a mental health problem, and I'm 1 in 4 with them. But with fertility, I'm 1 in 8. And I knew that when I was 1 in 4 with depression, when I was first diagnosed, you got a lot of stupid and ignorant and hurtful questions that you weren't prepared for, really, and couldn't cope with, but people aren't really that bothered. And I struggled a lot when I was younger with those things. Now I'm older, I'm used to it and I'm capable of coping with it. But if I'm really bad with my depression or anxiety, I won't say about it on social media till after the event, because you do get these hurtful questions and hurtful comments and stuff that people who are quite ignorant will try and sort of think they're helping, but they're not. And I can't really cope with that, whereas I can sort of just dismiss it and just forget about it when I'm feeling well. So I don't tend to talk about my mental health until after an event of feeling bad. So that's basically what I decided to do with the fertility. I thought, I learnt my lesson from before and I'm not going to talk about it because we don't really know what's going on. Everyone's going to want to know what's wrong with both me and John. They're going to have all these things about, suggestions about things that we aren't doing or should be doing, but they have no clue because they're not doctors and nurses, and most of them won't have ever been through this because, as I said, we're 1 in 8. So the majority of people aren't going to have had any of these problems. And we chose not to even tell our parents. I told my sister, and eventually when we started the IVF, because I was going to need some time off work, I spoke to my manager and I swore him to secrecy, and that if I heard that there was any rumour about it at work, that any suggestion anyone knew about it, then I'd be like putting in a complaint. And John obviously told his manager as well, because again, he needed time off work, so he needed to explain to them, and that's literally all the people that we told. And I'm not particularly like close that way with my parents. They probably wouldn't have been that great if I told them, which is my main reason. And then we decided that because we didn't tell my parents, it's probably best not to tell John's parents because they live in the same village, and it was a bit like mean to tell one set and not the other, so we just didn't tell them. And I'm so pleased as well that we never told a soul that we were trying for a baby, because that's the other thing. I've heard people do it with others before, when someone's been like, oh yeah, we're trying for a baby, and then it's obvious that they're not pregnant, clearly, and it's like a few months later, a few more months later, and people are like, oh god, she hasn't got pregnant yet, has she? Do you think she's having problems, or do you think there's something wrong with her? I don't want to be that person that they're talking about. And I'm so glad that I didn't tell them, because we did have problems. And could you imagine? Oh god. But yeah, and that I think helped my mental health quite a lot, was the fact that I didn't have loads of people. And also when things fail, like you have another period and you're not pregnant again, or you go through IUI, every single person thinks they're entitled to know every little bit of your business. So not only are you disappointed that you now know that your treatment's failed, you've not only, because obviously as a woman you're the first person to know if you've started a period, you've got to tell your partner, which is bad enough, because then obviously he's disappointed and upset as well, and you can see he is, even if he's trying to be like, oh well, next time and stuff like this. You know that he's sad about it. You've then got to tell like your parents, whatever, everyone else, and it's such a personal thing and a stressful and hard thing to go through. You don't have to repeat your heartache to every single person who, you know, again, will probably try and be nice and be like, it's okay, you got next time, but it's not helping, you know, because there's nothing that's going to make you feel better about it, because, you know, you've still got tumbleweed going through your womb. But so I thought limiting it to just me and John, and to be fair to my sister, she doesn't ask me loads of questions all the time. She waits for me to tell her and say this, and she figures that if she doesn't hear anything, then clearly we're not pregnant, so she doesn't keep asking all the time, so that's fine. Work, maybe ask a little bit more, the manager and stuff, because I want to keep in date, and then the questions are sort of like, oh well, did they find, no they didn't, if there was anything else to tell you I would tell you. So yeah, that's the other thing that I think helps with the mental health of this, is just not tell anybody and then you don't have to relive the horror every single time to about 1 billion different people. And that is really why that these videos, even though I'm recording these videos way before you're ever going to see them, I always knew I was going to talk about it eventually once it came to a conclusion, because I think it's important, because I know I'm not the only person going through fertility problems, and I've seen a lot on Instagram and stuff of people also going through them. And I also wanted to put on video exactly what it's like to go through it, because people say, oh, I had this baby by IVF, but you don't realise the actual mental and physical side of it, how long it takes, the heartache of it, the struggle, the fact that it's not as easy as saying, oh, we can just have IVF if you're having problems, and you don't realise how much you go through just that process, and you don't even know what the outcome's going to be, how little the odds are. So I always knew I was going to talk about it, and also as I was going through it, I felt it was easier just to do the videos, and then I could decide at the end whether I was talking nonsense, whether there were some bits that were irrelevant. But I'm hoping that when I do put these videos together eventually, and you eventually do see them, whatever the conclusion is, whether it's because I am pregnant or because that's it, we've come to the end of the fertility journey and it looks like that's never going to happen for us, whatever it is, I want people to know who are going through the same thing, exactly what happens, what exactly going through IVF and IUI actually means. And also for people who do just have sex and get pregnant, that they are very, very lucky, and to think about what they're doing when it comes to social media and things, and the way they talk about it, and just to be aware that it does actually happen. It's more common than you think, and people aren't necessarily have gone through anything like a menopause, or haven't necessarily got anything wrong with their tubes or anything, that sometimes it can be just unexplained. Because I didn't know all this beforehand, John didn't know all this beforehand. I knew people had problems having children, obviously, but I'd never known anyone actually really go through any of the fertility problems. They'd either, you know, or adoption or whatever. So I wanted to make sure that there was someone out there who was going to actually tell you plainly what it's like to go through this, and that it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not fun. But you do it because this is how much you want children. This is what you're willing to do to yourself to have a child, which is more than most of the people would ever think to go through.